Now we're doing better? I feel like I'm in a barrel, but however y'all hear is what we. Everybody here all right? And you may not want to after a while. So. Naps are okay. I started one story. I don't know if I need to finish that one or switch to another one. I used to, when I was studying the counseling, mental health, was exposed to a process called neuro-linguistics programming. And what it said was that we speak to each other's subconscious a lot also. And so I would see preachers get upset with the parishioners, crowd going to sleep on them, and they'd get mad about that. And I thought, y'all are passing up a great opportunity to speak to the subconscious without somebody arguing with you. So if y'all want to go to sleep, that's just fine. And if you pick up something that way, that's all right too. Well, good morning. Glad that you're here. It's been quite a while since I have taught on a regular basis. Started when I was, 20 or so. And I remember at that time, somebody gave me the opportunity, it may have been at Happy, I'm not sure, to teach or to preach or to something to that effect. And I thought, it's kind of presumptuous of me to think that I have anything to say or preach or teach to mature, experience. Well, I still feel that same way. You're mature and scholarly and studious and experienced, and so I hope that I can learn some from you today too. And when you choose a topical study as opposed to just scripture or maybe some character from the scripture, I tend to think you approach it in a little bit different manner. And so we're definitely going to be studying the Bible, but we're going to be looking at some other things, and particularly today as an introduction to choosing gratitude, I'm going to look at some different things with you. I know that when we look at this subject, that a lot of you have suffered and experienced and dealt with things and situations and people that I haven't. And that's the case with all of us, I guess. Everybody's got their problems. Everybody's got the things that they have to deal with, and we're certainly different in some of those ways. We have certain aspects that we share, but some of us have a whole lot different things that have happened to us in life, and so we have things that we've dealt with that some of the rest of us hadn't. So please keep in mind that when I bring up things or I share things, tell stories, understanding that many of you may have experienced very similar things like this in your life. Know about it, but I hope that as we do that, that you'll feel free. I had today my notes time-wise, so we may not get through all of them, or we may get through them and y'all get to play for a while. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Many of you have learned to live in the joy of gratitude a whole lot more than I have. I see lots of you aware that things are going on in your life, and you still seem to be very joyful, very grateful, very thankful for what you have and how things are going. So again, I hope to be able to experiences and from your faith in this study today. Many years ago, I was and I would have a topic that I needed to share and teach with the kids, and it would be really hard, and I'd have to work real hard at learning the music before I was able to teach it. And somewhere along the line, I heard this saying that said, we teach best what we most need to learn. And so I really need, this study is something that I really need to look at, think about, and study, probably more than many of you do, but that's what we're going to be looking at today. I caught myself saying that. Long years ago, I really didn't mean to say it. An auditorium class in Tuya for years and years and years. And there were the experienced and seasoned and mature and scholarly folks in that auditorium. and one or two in particular. I don't know how many of you ever knew Morgan Sturgis. He was a very grace-filled gentleman in his preaching and teaching. He was a farmer and a rancher, but he preached and he taught. And I would start out teaching, and I felt like that I was just tied to notes or what I had written down. And he said, "Oh, that'll be all right after a while." And so it wasn't long after a few years that I did go into the class and didn't have hardly any notes. And I guess we had a pretty good class. I don't know. Had a lot of folks stay there. Now, auditorium classes, I understand, it's not particularly because you choose the talk or the teacher, but for physical or whatever, it's just the easiest place to get to. And so, for whatever reason, I'm glad you're here. Last time I taught full time, I suppose, was about 20 years ago. So it's kind of like learning and starting all over again with what we've got to share today. I did teach a couple of Wednesday evening classes at Anna Street in Amarillo when we used to go there. The topic that we're going to look at, hopefully for the quarter, came from a book that Judy shared with me, and I did teach one or two classes about that subject there at Anna Street, but it's been a while. So today we're going to begin to look at some of these things, and it may get well today, but as we progress through this book, which I'm going to use as a guide, I think there may be a whole lot of different approaches to this study of gratitude. Would you pray? We are grateful and thankful for who you are and how you've chosen us to be your people and your children. We're so be a part of to study about you, to learn from your word, to learn from each other, not to be afraid. Brothers and sisters of ours in the world that do have to be fearful just because they gather in your name and gather with friends and brothers and sisters of like faith. Study that we may gain something from the study and may learn to be more grateful and more thankful to you for who you are and for what you've provided for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, we're going to go from the ridiculous to the sublime. I guess you're supposed to go the other way. But we're going to start looking at gratitude from a psychological perspective first. And I don't suppose that's ridiculous. However, after studying and being a therapist for a few years, we can get kind of ridiculous on occasion about how we look at things and approach things. But we're going to look away, and then we'll go into Scripture. So don't worry, we're not just totally leaving out the Bible today. Are happy people grateful? Sometimes we think being happy is a real goal to achieve. Some people want to have money. Think that will make them happy. Have esteem. Think that will make them happy. Of course, Beatitudes have told us, the blessed attitudes have told us what's important, what makes us joyful. And so I think maybe as we get older, we come to look at the idea that being joyful is a whole lot more important and more relevant to our lives than being happy. But are happy people grateful, or are grateful people happy? There you go. I think that's probably what we're going to see, and you probably know that. That gratitude is good for both your mental health and your physical health. Now, how do you think it would be to be grateful? What do you think might come from being grateful that would make you more calm? Yes, sir. Anything else? How about your physical health? How does being grateful help your physical health? Does it help your arthritis? Sinusitis? Colitis? Any other itis? Does it help with those things? We'll look and find out that. What we don't know is why people wait to improve well-being with an intentional improvement the practice of gratitude, because studies have shown that gratitude is good for both your health, mental and physical. So, why would a person, if they discovered that, why would they not choose to be grateful, knowing full well that it does help your mental health and helps your physical health? Studies have shown that the connection of gratitude to physical well-being is vital. One study in particular showed that gratitude is good for your heart, not in a figurative way, but in a literal, physical way. It's good for your heart, lowers blood pressure, decreases stress, improves sleep. Everybody have a good night's sleep last night? But you must have. Nobody's shaking your head or anything. I got y'all all the time. You must be grateful folks then. How do you think it would be good for your heart? How would gratitude be good for your heart? Lower your stress level. Okay. And why would it do that? Yes, sir. Okay. I'm going to tell on myself again a little bit. In the past, I have been let go from 2 or 3 different jobs for various reasons. Some of them I didn't understand, and 1 or 2 of them I thought, well, I guess I understand why you let me go, but you did. And you know, I knew intellectually all that time that everything is fine. If I trust in God, this ends, something else good begins. But one in particular that was a little bit rough, that I really had trouble dealing with when I was let go. I really held a grudge, and I guess if I was real honest, I could say I hated some folks for quite a while. And it seemed like what I got from that was a heart condition. Anyway, I had a heart problem go up after a few years of not being happy with how things were. And so I thought, there might be a connection there. So I chose to be bitter about how things turned out, instead of knowing in my heart what I knew in my mind, that everything is supposed to work out. Everything will be fine. And of course, in my life, I've had difficulty on several different things about moving them from up here to down here. Now, I have a wonderful teacher who's in the class and taught me very well about some things I needed to know, and I got it up here a whole lot sooner than I got it someplace else. So I don't know if that's all of us again. Other studies have shown that a successful gratitude can lessen symptoms of depression and anxiety. I heard the word depression a lot, and didn't think too much about it, learned about it, symptoms and how folks are affected by it. Didn't think a whole lot about it until some folks really close to me have showed up with depression or bipolar condition. And it gets a little bit closer about what that really means. Read a few things in the past that said, well, a person's doesn't have depression, they are just depressing. And so I thought, well, I suppose there's something to that, which means that, you're just definitely in all aspects choosing to feel how you feel. And we learned that is not always the case, but we do have some latitude in that, don't we? Grateful people are less inclined to feel resentment and envy. Like I said, I resented some folks for a long time. And still, after years and years and years, there's some of them pop up in my mind, and I have to admit, my first thought's not always real kind about them. I think about it for a while and learn to get that way. How about envy? At this point in time, any of you still look at somebody else and who they are? They feel a little envious about that? Probably not. Everybody's satisfied and happy. The higher the level of the experience of gratitude as an emotion, that's how you feel, the more likely the instance of higher levels of positive effect. I guess it'd be good, first of all, to look at what is an emotion. Sometimes we use the word emotions, and sometimes we'll use the word feelings, and interchangeably, and that's about half right. So what is an emotion? I mean, we can name them: fear and anger and joy, a whole bunch of them. I was working with younger kids. There's a chart of the smiley faces, and you know, the way you put the different face on the smiley face determines what the emotion is. So you try to get a young person to say, okay, is this how you feel? Is this how you feel? So there's part of it, isn't it? One definition is that an emotion is a thought attached to a feeling. So, envy, and we have that, we feel a certain way. So the word happy or joyful, there's sometimes feelings and thoughts that comes to our mind. Has a lot to do with what's going on with us. Positive emotions broaden and enable the opportunity to build. Gives you opportunities. Does that make sense? Understand that? Gratitude is a disposition that allows others to improve as well. So what they're saying here is that if we're grateful, if we're thankful, if we have that attitude of gratitude, then grown up with the notion. It was me, I guess, because I had the idea, you know, when I was becoming a young adult, that I'm responsible for the salvation of the whole world, because that's kind of how we were taught, wasn't it? We're supposed to go teach, and we go teach because everybody's lost, and so it's my responsibility if everybody's lost. Well, you know, you probably come out of that a little bit, but you still get the idea that we have some responsibility. We understand from the writings of Paul, where he encourages folks, you know, if what you're going to do really truly offends a brother, then that's something maybe you need to leave out. So we want to look and do things that help other people. So how would gratitude help somebody else? So you do something for me, I'm thankful for that. What does that do to you or for you? Pardon me? You pass it on. Okay. Is tough. Now, I suppose that first could hit us as saying, okay, if I'm thankful, then immediately the world's going to be better. And that may not, like you say, is grateful to me. I determined to good things happen, pass that on for too. Okay, who can give me a definition of gratitude? Thankful. Words come to mind? Okay, this particular writer said first of goodness. And I don't think I had probably ever thought of it that way, but maybe you have. If I am grateful, I am saying, yes, there's goodness in the world. There are good things that happen. There are good people in the world. So it's an affirmation of goodness. That we've received. Now what we're saying now is all happening, right? Second, we recognize that the sources of this goodness are outside of ourselves. We acknowledge that powers give us many gifts, big and small, help us in our lives. I know none of this is earth-shaking, but I kind of want us to get this thought in mind, because we're going to understand in a little bit that there's a big difference between how the world or how psychology looks at this thing of gratitude and how the Bible looks at it or approaches it. So bear with me if this is all just seems like old hat to you. Gratitude is relationship strengthening emotion, because it allows us to see how we've been supported and affirmed by other people. So, if you're running around thinking you're all by your lonesome, that things are just really bad for everybody and especially you, then it forces us, if we are grateful, if we have gratitude, and again, now we're mostly talking about to other people, it makes us see how they support us and how they affirm us. It's a big deal, or it used to be, you know. I need to be affirmed. And again, working with young folks like I have for years and years, that's the thing about it is I keep saying to you, you're a wonderful person, you're a wonderful person. Well, that's the important part of it, but there's got to be some other things involved. And even as we get older, you know, real outgoing. He was a farmer, and he was kind of timid. But he, when he was in the church and we were younger, he would sometimes lead singing and a prayer. He got to be less secure of himself. And the older I get, I'm understanding that part too. But he got to be where he wasn't agoraphobic or anything, but it was more of a challenge for him to go out and interact with folks, and always had this feeling that they're looking at him in a little different way. Well, this says that gratitude about how we are relating to other people, and not only to appreciate gifts, but to repay them or pay them forward, like you were saying, passing it on. It's called the moral memory of mankind. I don't think I'd ever heard that before, and particularly about that particular subject, that gratitude is the moral memory of mankind. Does that mean we don't remember bad things that happened? And historically, you know, we're told that if you don't study about what went on, you're going to keep doing the same things. Good, and you keep doing them and don't know that they weren't good. Well, things were, you know, the definition of same thing for a different outcome. So what does it mean truly that we label gratitude or appreciation or thankfulness? Appreciate, esteem, hold in high regard, prize, value, simply holding something in high regard. I'd like for you to take a minute, and you don't have to speak out loud, but if you would try to think of something real quick, if you can, that you do hold in high regard. And it can be that you love God, and of course we hold Jesus in high regard, but of just things in your life or the people in your life, who or what do you hold in high regard or esteem? Think highly of, appreciate. As wise judgment, delicate perception, and keen insight in realizing the worth of something. Again, good things happen, and we say, wow, that's something I like. I appreciate that. I hold that in high regard. I value that. I hold it in esteem. And so we are exercising our judgment to determine, okay, this is something that's good. Now, real quick, the day hasn't been going on too long so far. Is there anything that comes to mind real quickly that has happened today, this morning already, that you've thought about, that memory popped up, that you don't value all that much? You think, man, that's not good. Our value of this particular thing is that it's not good. I don't hold that particular thing or attitude or person in regard and high esteem. Like I said, there's still folks in the history of my life, when they first come to mind, I don't hold them in real high regard. Still working on that. Y'all are going to help me with that. Gratitude. Here's another person who says thankfulness. Gratitude is the expression of appreciation. Independent of monetary worth. So yeah, you know, we get paid, and if we get I guess, or not getting too many bonuses nowadays. But if it's like that, that's monetary. Yeah, we're thankful for that. But this idea of gratitude and expressing and recognizing gratitude for other things in our life doesn't have anything to do with monetary value. Spontaneously generated from within. Now, we might want to think about that. I don't know if we want to agree or disagree with that. Within, it is an affirmation of goodness and warmth. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It smells that. Kind of grateful, aren't you? With that in mind, how many of us are grateful when it doesn't rain? Do you like the dirt blowing and the tumbleweeds all over the place? Had a fellow come out yesterday and asking us to try to get rid of all the tumbleweeds around my third of a mile of fence and then the garden and the rest of the places. He very generously quoted me a price of $850. So if y'all have a trailer and a lot of energy, I'll maybe a little less than that. I'll pay you to help me get rid of my tumbleweeds. But yeah, tumbleweeds and bindweeds and the dirt blowing and the goat heads and all that. Everything. This social emotion strengthens relationships, and its roots run deep in evolutionary history. Have you ever gone back, and if you're doing the daily Bible reading, the study that was given to us, we're looking back at Old Testament, history of the Jews, what God did, how the people reacted, and all that. We look at ourselves as we go through that. And then we look at the folks in the New Testament, and then we look down through history and look at ourselves today. Have we evolved very much? Well, this particular person says that gratitude in human are more grateful that, the quality of how we react and even the quality of life itself has been that way. God was very important for his children to offer sacrifices. Have you pulled out your best lamb or your best chicken? That's what you had. And you gave that away. After a while, would that just be a habit, saying, okay? Would that really be an action of gratitude? I don't know. Y'all have probably read the Old Testament, and you've seen it and responded to God and to other things. We read through Judges. That's scary. If you've read that lately, I got to talking to a gentleman the other day who was really about the wokeness in a particular organization that he's in, that he said this should be for the education of children and not to, push some cause that somebody has. And I don't know that those are mutually exclusive, but anyway, he was quite concerned. And that thought has come to my mind the last couple of weeks, especially as I read the last part of Judges. All those terrible things that went on. And several times in the last 2 or 3 verses, do you remember the verse that the statement that stuck out over and over again. And at this time, every man did what was right. The thousands of have we evolved as a society? Studies show experiencing and expressing gratitude. Now, I'm definitely not a doctor. Some of you in here have had to deal with situations of the brain. See, time at least they're pretending to be operating on somebody's brain, and so we picked up the notion that yes, we understand the different parts of the brain affect different parts of who we are and how we act, how we respond. Here that task going to do something. By that you're saying expressing. Happens. These scans show lasting prefrontal cortex that heightens sensitivity to future experiences of gratitude. Somebody tell me what that mumbo jumbo I read says. There you go. There you go. That when we do something, the likelihood of us doing it again, or maybe even doing it better, or improving that happens made that way. When we grow things, we cultivate. There's hybridization animals and plants, and sometimes even crossing those two things to try to make things better. So when we do something, we do it over and over again, especially. Now, practice doesn't make perfect, does it? Practice makes different. So when you practice being grateful, that's what they're saying here, the brain scan that, you're more likely to see something else to be grateful for, to be thankful for. So here's another definition, not too much different. What is gratitude? Gratitude is a spontaneous feeling. Word. Gratitude is a spontaneous feeling, but increasingly we're finding out that it has value as a practice. And back to God requiring the Jews that they to offer sacrifices. If you read through Leviticus, all the different kinds of sacrifices that were made for different things at different times. But showing that as a practice, making conscious efforts to count one's blessings, studies show that people can deliberately cultivate gratitude. Well, surprise. There are important social and personal benefits. Surprise. And we just said, you know, that gratitude has improved the quality of life of folks down through. It is possible to feel gratitude for love, colleagues, animals, nature, and life. The emotion generates a kind of positivity that both reaches inward and extends outward. Again, these are things we probably think about. I'm taking them slow and looking at them this way because, again, I want us to see how the way that the world studies this particular quality and how then we're going to look at it as it's approached in the Bible may be a little bit different. Gratitude is both a temporary feeling and a dispositional trait. In both cases, gratitude involves a process of, first of all, that one has to think a positive outcome. I got something good, something worked. And second, that there is an external source for that good outcome. I'm kind of repeating myself, but I think if you kind of look at it and break it down that way, it's going to help us when we start looking at things in the Bible. How much time? I'm running out of time. Why does gratitude matter? Psychologists find that over time, feeling grateful boosts happiness. Determined that maybe we want to change that to joyfulness. It fosters both physical and psychological health. They've found out that even among the folks that already have mental health problems, that dwelling on gratitude and working on it, practicing it, can help those mental health problems. Studies show that practicing gratitude curbs the use of words expressing negative. Now again, we're all grown and getting perfect, right? So nobody got up this morning and had a negative thought or said a negative word, did you? About anything? I didn't think so. That it shifts inner attention away from such negative emotions as resentfulness, envy, minimize the possibility of ruminating. You know what ruminating is? Any of you raised around cattle? They have 4 stomachs, right? One of them's called the rumen. What takes place in the rumen? Sam, what takes place in the rumen? For the second time, right? So ruminating is not just thinking about something, it's going over and over and over and over. And then again, man, I've done that about negative things. Just keep thinking about those negative things, which is a hallmark of depression. Does gratitude reduce stress? Well, I think we've already agreed to that. People who are grateful, now, these are going to come in handy for me once in a while, feel less pain, feel less stress, suffer less, have stronger immune systems, experience healthier relationships, and do better academically and professionally. And that's a big promise, isn't it? Look at those again. People who are grateful experience less pain, feel less pain, feel less stress, suffer insomnia less, have stronger immune systems. Man, after the last 3 years, we've determined that immune system is really important. And who got sick, who didn't get sick, and how sick the ones who got sick, how well the other ones didn't. Experience healthier relationships. Everybody gets along great with your friends and your spouse, right? All the time. We've learned that. Do better academically and professionally. That may not be a great big deal for us now, but you know, our minds and our bodies, if they don't keep going one way, they start heading the other way. Overall, it can be are great, less depressed, they're less likely to have mental health problems like depression. One study found that gratitude intervention was successful in reducing how you come off, how you present yourself, what's going on that you show physically and verbally too. So it reduces negative affect. So if you're grateful, or I've been accused of that. You look mean. What's wrong with you? You look mean. You look mad. One of the last classes I taught several years ago was girls choir, and one of them told me that I looked like the Grinch. That was what they were familiar with at the time. So I suppose that I looked that way. How to cultivate gratitude. Gratitude starts with noticing the goodness in life. Do you think we have a materialistic culture? Are you materialistic? Am I materialistic? How would you determine that? Do you think we're all wealthier than Solomon was? Smarter, I hope. Barely get along with one wife. I don't know how that gentleman. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he didn't try to get along. I don't know. Well, he could not walk over to the wall and flip a switch and get light, could he? He could not go to the tap, turn it on, get water. He had to deal with how he eliminated bodily waste in a whole different way than we do. We look back 110 or 20 years, and we're much different. Gratitude starts with noticing the goodness in life. A materialistic culture that encourages constant wanting and sees possessions as the source of happiness is not the most fertile ground for gratitude. But it's not an insurmountable barrier to developing it. Envy, and especially cynicism and narcissism, I've noticed that word coming to the fore a whole lot more lately than it used to. What's a narcissist? You remember the fable about the narcissist? Aesop's fable, remember that one? Fella, or a creature, I don't know what it was, walking across a bridge and looking down into his reflection in the water and got so enamored of it. We're pretty sold on ourselves if we're narcissistic, aren't we? Similar thieves of gratitude. In fact, the cultivation of gratitude may be at least a partial remedy for narcissism. We're going to be out here in just a minute, and I didn't get near as far as I thought we might, but I would like to end with this particular story, and then we'll pick up with it again next week. This book is kind of the basis of our study, Choosing Gratitude. It's by Nancy Lee DeMoss. And some of y'all may have read the book. I'm assuming that maybe it's at least been taught in a ladies' study. But the poem, or part of a poem, at the very first of it says, gratefulness. Thou that hast given so much to me, give me one thing more, a grateful heart. I cry and cry again, and in no quiet canst thou be, till I a thankful heart obtain of thee. Not thankful when it pleases me, as if thy blessings had spare days, but such a heart whose pulse may be thy praise. We got time for another story, or are we in the new? Bell hadn't rung, has it? It has? Okay. Well, we're only about a third of the way through, half the way through. So I won't have to work too hard this next lesson. Thank you all so much for your participation and for your help and your attention. And here's where we shall pick up next week, and we'll start getting into the Bible. I apologize. I thought we would today. 3 particular scriptures, if you think about it, you might want to read. Romans chapter 1, verses 20 through 22. You have an idea what that is, so you just start reading Romans, get down there about the last third of it, you'll get it there. 1 Thessalonians 5:18, and you know 15 and 16 and 17 talk about us singing right. And sometimes we get to verse 18, we've not paying that much attention, but 1 Thessalonians 5:18 and Ephesians 5:19 and 20. And we'll pick up next week and look at those verses and a little story that I'd like to share. Thank you again very much.